Hello guys and welcome to my channel. I'm a new slime anime YouTuber. If you like this content, please consider subscribing and clicking that bell notification icon so I can continue uploading this kind of content. This video is the part 3 of chapter 1 of volume 19 of Light Novel. So without further ado, let's get started. Jetel was wielding a ghastly blood-colored spear. I had no idea when or from where he brought it out, but I could feel a tremendous power coming from that spear.
It seems that the spear is called the Origin Blood Spear. This spear, given to me by the divine ancestor, will pierce you through. That's what he said.
Oh, I see. Unlike me, it seemed that Seal-sen was already aware of Benimaru's situation. Well, it's true that we couldn't be too careful, but we weren't necessarily in a bad situation. If worse came to worst, I still had Veldora, so even if I died, I could be revived. It could be said that I didn't have a high enough sense of danger, but it wasn't worth being impatient until I found a way to attack. And so, I continued my observations. I wasn't sure of what kind of existence Jael was, but he didn't look uncomfortable, even though he had taken over footmen. In other words, his movements were light, and his spear wielding was very good. Because I had increased my perception speed by several 100,000,000 times, I could clearly see that he fought like an expert. It was hard to believe that he was using someone else's body, and that only made obvious just how troublesome Jael was. And moreover, Jael's existence value was over 3 times that of Benimaru's, and what's more, that spear, the Origin Blood, was estimated to have an existence value of more than 10 million. Such a weapon should be illegal. Since we were outside Ramirez Labyrinth, I couldn't calculate the exact values, but the overall difference in strength between them was more than 4 times. It was only due to Benimaru's skill level, which was superior to mine, that the battle was barely feasible. In other words, if Benimaru did not have his Heat King Amaterasu, he would have been defeated long ago. That's how troublesome this bastard Jatel was. If that was the case, I wanted to help him out right now. But I didn't have that kind of time, so I had no choice but to ask Benimaru to do his best. As for the other battles, well, this one was an indefinite draw. The mysterious woman who was fighting Leon looked just like Altan, so I assumed that she was related to her. Surprisingly, she was just as powerful as an awakened demon lord. No, perhaps even more than that. She appeared to have an ultimate skill, and was doing her best against Leon without retreating single a step.
Their fighting styles are very similar. I presume that they have a master-disciple relationship.
I hadn't noticed it because they were using different types of weapons, but now that you mention it, they might be very similar after all. Perhaps that woman was Leon's mentor, and their ultimate skills were of the same lineage. Since they were able to read the other's movements, they were stuck in an indefinite draw. There wasn't going to be an easy way to settle this. Any help couldn't be expected, but the fact that support wasn't immediately needed could be considered quite lucky.
Rimuru-kun, right? If you can afford to observe all this, then shouldn't you help me out a bit?
Oh, she's quite the perceptive person. She caught me scrutinizing their battle. I couldn't actually afford to do much either, but it's true that I had been observing the other battles, so it was hard to refute her. In that case, I had no choice but to answer as honestly as I could.
I'm sorry. I didn't have anything better to do, so I couldn't help looking over my shoulder.
What kind of nerves do you have to do something like that when you can't even afford it? I had heard from El-chan that you didn't have any common sense, but you really should take things more seriously.
That was undeniably true. I wasn't expecting to be found out, so I had let my guard down, but it was certainly out of the ordinary to look away in the middle of a battle.
I shall take your suggestions back with me and consider them seriously.
It sounds like you're not interested in reforming at all, but whatever. So, do you think you can win?
Very perceptive, this one. I was planning to play it off lightly, but she saw right through me. I really had to start taking this more seriously, or Feldway was going to think I was crazy. Preparing for a possible counterattack, I answered her question.
I can't at the moment. There's no room for an opening.
Feldway snickered upon hearing that. Unexpectedly, he joined in on the conversation.
Hey, I'm the one who should be surprised that you're looking away while fighting me. And yet, you say that there's no room for an opening? How ridiculous. From whose mouth are you speaking from?
Shut up. It's only because I showed you my trump card and you blocked it so easily. If you'd have just let yourself get hit by that, I wouldn't have had to go through all this trouble.
Don't make me laugh. If you bastards hadn't interfered with me, our plan would have come to fruition much earlier. In the first place, you should realize how many of our plans have been foiled because of your servant, the Black King, Noir.
It seems that I was too aggressive and had made him angry.
I had nothing to do with those Diablo incidents.
It is the owner's job to take responsibility.
No, we haven't known each other for that long.
I have a policy for not taking on unnecessary responsibility. I firmly insisted that I was not at fault here.
You really are a cheeky one.
I agree. You're pretty incredible. I almost respect you for being so relaxed in this kind of situation.
That was not a compliment. I mean, you should just be focusing on Leon. Just kidding. I'd never say that out loud, because that would be like treading on the tail of a snake.
By the way, who are you?
Oh, me, I'm L-chan's mom. You can just call me Sylvia.
That was a surprising introduction. Well, elves were a long-lived species, so I suppose it could be the case, but I still felt like I wouldn't easily be able to nod my head in agreement even if Elatan called her mother right in front of me. The common sense of my previous life got in the way too much. When I glanced over at her, I saw that she was fighting a very close battle to the extent that it was strange that she even found the time to talk. Both Leon and Sylvia Sem were dodging each other's swords by the slimmest of margins and counterattacking, as if they had practiced it beforehand. This person seemed to have a lot of guts, if she could speak casually under such circumstances.
So, do you think Leon will be able to pull through? You're his master, aren't you?
Ah, you caught that? I won't deny that I'm his master, but I don't think I can do anything about this. To be honest, I didn't expect Leon-kun to be this strong.
That response sounded playful, but it was probably the truth. Those two had been walking a tightrope since before we arrived, so it was no wonder that they had lost their concentration. The current state of equilibrium would collapse if any part of it was missing, so it certainly wasn't the time to be complacent. But then, I was left wondering what to do about Leon. I did have a plan for dealing with Leon, but I wasn't sure if I should go through with it. In any case, I wanted to aim for more effective timing, but right now didn't seem to be the right time. The situation was severe, but we were still in equilibrium. I felt that if I overreacted now, I might end up putting us all in danger. I would continue to wait and see about Leon. As I was making such a decision, I received a complaint from Benimaru.
Rimuru-sama, I understand that you can afford to do so, but I'm in a really difficult spot here.
How unusual for Benimaru to be complaining. Well, I guess it was understandable. A power difference of more than 4 times was too severe.
It's bad?
It's really bad.
That's right. It was fortunate that Jehel specialized in flames because it gave Benimaru an advantage in terms of compatibility. He would have been defeated long ago otherwise, so even the current situation was miraculous. Now then, what to do? The battle would be decided once the equilibrium was broken, but even I didn't have the strength to do so. I had a few hidden trump cards, but it was difficult to know when to use them. As for the opponents, aside from Leon, Feldway and Jackal were too much at ease. We were overwhelmingly at a disadvantage. In that case, perhaps I should kill the enemies elsewhere and wait for someone to rush in, or even perform demon summoning, one of our trump cards, and call in Tensura. However, I was afraid that if I did that, my opponent would be able to do the same thing, and things would quickly go out of hand. After all, the best option was to wait and see for a while.
Benimaru-kun, please do your best just a little longer.
Why seriously? I can't buy that much time, you know?